Welcome to another edition of Cybersecurity Divas Leadership Moments with Lendrell Downs. Today's edition is brought to you by Fortify Experts, a cybersecurity search and consulting firm that helps companies build high-performing security and risk teams. Now here's Lynn.
Since I know cybersecurity has been such a male-dominant field for a long time, how did you actually maneuver throughout this male-dominant field?
I think my mother kind of raised me as equal to my brothers, and that it started right there. And she encouraged me to not just focus on psychology, but look at computers as a career path. And even though at that time I told her, no, I want to do psychology, I want to be, counseling. And my first exposure to asylum scared the heebie jeebies out of me. And I went running, that, okay, I think what she's saying is right, that I really cannot handle clinical psychology. So I came back and I told her, you know what, I think you are onto something. You're on the right path. And I agree. So I made it sound like I was agreeing with her. But I really did kind of go into that computer science from then onwards. And that's when I found out I really enjoyed technology,
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was talking about the, your advice to divas, upcoming divas, is that don't close your mind just because you think you like something. Unless you try a few other areas, you won't know till you have tried it.
So true. So this COVID nightmare that we're living these days, how has it affected your career right now? Is it affecting your company?
It did affect me because I am a small company and, revenue, generating sales is a very big challenge for small companies, as you can imagine out there.
Mm-hmm.
So when COVID did hit, it put some change priorities for a lot of companies where they're not focusing on, some of the security consulting that we offer, which is creating cybersecurity strategy, creating cybersecurity programs, because a lot of companies pivoted to more tactical issues such as how to just do secure access, or move to the cloud, which we also offer actually is how to securely adopt the cloud. You have to have a strategic approach, otherwise you will not get, and with multiple stakeholders, example. But one of the things I would say on a personal level, it was a very daunting, the uncertainty was very daunting, as in, you may not even be alive in 6 months. And so how do you focus on business, right?
Right.
So it was a personal pivot more than a company pivot, was I am on a leadership for NIST based public-private partnership called NIST GCTC CPAC, which is for Cybersecurity Privacy Advisory Council. A bit of a mouthful, okay? And I was telling them about this initiative that I put together for my company for creating a set of resources, a toolkit for businesses to not just be secure, because nobody's going to be thinking about security unless they can even be resilient and operational, right?
Right.
The COVID environment. So we started putting these resources together in my company. And I offered that to them to kind of do it on a broader basis. So the NIST public-private partnership, they asked me to lead this COVID-19 task force. And I did that. So I put together resources on, volunteers, on created the vision and the strategy. And that actually had a really good outcome and came to fruition. You can look at it at smartsecuresocieties.org. That is a toolkit for businesses to not only how to stay operational, how to stay secure, it's got 8 different areas. So that's what came about, which
Okay.
was a very successful outcome, I would say.
Okay. I'm going to look that up. So what is your biggest concern about the current state of threats these days?
So the current state of threats, as you know, ransomware is rampant, right?
Yes.
And and so just even if we take ransomware, I think there's a lot of ignorance around what is a way of dealing with ransomware. A lot of even security professionals will advise you that you need a good backup for dealing with ransomware, but they don't realize that A, ransomware is not going away, and B, it is preventable. You can set technology as well as policies in a company which can help you, one, fight ransomware, prevent it from infesting into your network, or B, even if it does break-in that you can mitigate and restrict it so it doesn't spread all across the network, for example. So there are ways of doing it right. And it's not just technology that you can bring in and throw it out there. It does take a concerted security program, which if you have a good security program, you would have some measures anyway, but you definitely need to do that now. That's one of my biggest concerns is that not only is this growing and really impacting companies' revenue and operational downtime, is impacting as in, not having enough, having outage to the company's downtime and uptime rather. But it is preventable and people are not addressing it as a strategic approach, right? So even if, for example, they have insurance, for example, cyber insurance will cover part of the effects of ransomware. And, in fact, it's having a downturn. It's trending in the negative direction. FBI is saying you should not be paying ransomware. And there's a reason for that. Because once ransomware has hit your network, means they already infiltrated your defenses. So even if you unlock your files, doesn't mean that the perpetrators have left. That's one thing. Okay.
Right.
Secondly, if you pay the cyber insurance, just because you have cyber insurance, again, same thing, doesn't mean that they are not still there. Okay. And
Right.
you're just encouraging the perpetrators because now they're going to go after companies that have cyber insurance so that they can get the payout without, it's just a, self-feeding cycle. So
Yeah.
to summarize, there are ways of mitigating the risk from ransomware. It has to be done, at a technical level. There are two things you can do. You can look at SMB, how it's implemented on your network, not allow SMB across the entire network, for example. RDP, shut that down unless you know where it's coming from, secure that access. So there are very, very technical things you can do, but there's also things you can do within the network and within the company to mitigate that risk. And that's just one example, right? I mean, that's just one thing, but it kind of is indicative of how at large companies are thinking about ransomware or thinking about cybersecurity. You really have to kind of think about what is the root cause of things and how do we address that instead of just approaching it from a band-aid kind of approach.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, no, you are an employer. So, what advice would you give employers? What do you think they are not doing to keep these threats at bay?
I think the companies are not always in keeping their hand on the pulse, okay, of the business, of how they're operating, where the risks are coming from, and what are these risks and how to mitigate them, how to identify them and mitigate them again strategically. There's really no way you can have Coke and Pepsi, right, in the same exact industry, same exact vertical, horizontal, whatever you, but the way they're doing things is going to be different and their risks are going to be different. So it could be the same business, but in a different company are going to approach it differently. The exposure is going to therefore be different. And there's really no short stop gap measure to take. Security is contextual. It is based on every company's threat profile, and that changes on their business model as well as the operational model, and that's how we have to approach it.
Yes. My last question, where do you see the biggest opportunity to improve cybersecurity?
I can tell you there are risks that we are not dealing with right now, such as for artificial intelligence systems, machine learning systems. And that's what something that it prompted me to create a framework for integrating security and privacy into machine learning systems as they are being developed. We are focusing a lot on on the applications of these systems. But the big gorilla in the room, which nobody is acknowledging at a systemic level, is these systems are highly impactful. This is not your web application that you go buy a Ferrari on, or well, I hope you're not buying a Ferrari on the web, but a winter jacket. It's these are applications that have far more impact, and therefore we have to be really cognizant of the risks and make sure that security and privacy is integrated by design into these systems. And then the very fact that machine learning systems are not conventional software means that there are other aspects that go into its secure development, such as explainability and transparency, etc. So what am I doing for that? Two things. One is I'd created a framework for how to integrate, it's called AI SPIT, artificial
Ah,
intelligence, security, privacy, integrity, and transparency. It's an attempt of putting these things, these elements into a design of these systems right at the get-go. Also, there's a organization called Women in Cybersecurity.
yes.
I reached out to them and asked them if they would be interested if I started a Women in Trusted AI group for them, and they agreed to that. So we will be that's been approved, and I found four other women who could be part of the leadership. So we are going to be doing that announcement in the next couple of days.
Okay, great. I look forward to seeing that. Well, Pamela, I really appreciate you being the diva you are. You are a driven, inspirational visionary that has taken action in security. That's who you are. Do you have anything else you would like to say?
Just say that this is cybersecurity should be a part of everybody's mindset. So whether you choose it as a career or not, it's just a field that is has so much to offer, and there's a lot of promise, and there's a lot of work, and we need inspired people to join and contribute.
Yes, you are so true. Well, thank you, Pamela, and you have a blessed day. And thank you for being the diva you are.
So much, my dear
All
super
right.
diva.